Hello, everybody. I left you when our train, if you can call it that, our cattle car arrived to Birkenau, to Auschwitz, which we really did not know what it is. The secret was kept very well. We had no idea of Auschwitz. And it stopped for a while. The doors were unlocked from the outside, and the doors were opened up, and some people who were wearing striped uniforms of blue and white came up on the trains and started throwing us out. Quickly, don't take anything. You will get it after. And of course some were dead, like I explained to you, and everybody was just thrown out. If a child fell, it had to be left there. This all went with beatings, yelling, shooting, and the dogs. The dogs, who were supposed to be men's best friend, were the best friend of the Nazis, but not of us. And this was scary. It's the middle of the night. It's dark. The only thing we see is in 4 different places, fire is jutting out of chimneys. And I don't mean smoke, fire. And they are quite high, but fire is jutting out of these chimneys. Of course, we have no idea what it is. And we are told quickly, the men in one row, the women in another one with the children, run, hurry, fast. And like I explained with beatings, we arrived to one place when there is a group of Nazis. Among them is Mengele. I hate to give him the title of doctor, who did the selection, and he was just standing there, who to the right and who to the left, not who to live, because those of us whom he chose, it wasn't for living, it was for working. Those who looked strong enough, he just motioned to the right. We arrived to this group and we are told to stop. And from the whole family, I'm the one that obviously looks strong enough for work. I was 16 years old in a few days, and I'm thrown to the right. And I very quickly run back to be with my mother, with my grandmother, with my sister, with the family. And again, they throw me to the right. And there I found myself together with my cousins, friends from school, neighbors, all people between ages of 14 and maybe 40. Now, the other people from the family went to the left. And that was the last time I ever saw anybody in my family. It was known to us afterward that they were marched to the crematoriums, where they were gassed and burned the same night. Of course, we had no idea what's happening to them. What's happening to us, we didn't know either. And this time, we are marched in. We are marched into the sauna. Any of you have been in Poland? Have you visited the sauna? No. It's a very big place. And into this hall we are marched. We come in there and we are told to undress, put our belongings in a pile, to go into the next room. And like I told you, I come from a religious family, a religious girl. The important thing is not to be undressing in front of men. We didn't even undress in front of our sisters or mother. Everything had to be done in privacy. And here we're told to undress and we are refusing. And again starts shouting, beating, shooting, and dogs. And we refuse, and it's an unbelievable experience. And then one lady goes up on a table and she says, "Girls, many of you know me. I'm Dr. Pearl. I am from Seagate. And I'm begging you, do what they are asking you to do. It's for your own benefit. And I'll be here to help you in whatever way I can." Now, I don't know if you had a chance to watch it. In the States, it was shown on Channel 13 many times. It's called Out of the Ashes. And also she wrote a book. I was a doctor in Auschwitz. She wrote a book. I was a doctor in Auschwitz. She wrote that after the war. It's very raw, very to the point. And what she did, she was there already. She told us she was there 2 weeks already, and she's asking us to follow orders. She was a gynecologist who came and she found out what Mengele is doing on his experiments. Like he would, when we arrived, the first thing is he would say, "Those of you who are doctors, come forward." He needed help in his atrocities. "Those of you who are dentists, come forward." They had to pull out the teeth, gold teeth from the from the dead. "Those of you who are twins, come forward. And those of you who are pregnant, come forward, you'll get more food." What she found out is, on his experiments, he would take a woman and let her give birth, put the infant in a little bed, put the mother in another bed next to him, tie her hands and tie her breasts, not allow her to feed the baby, the infant, because he had to find out how long it will take to mother to get crazy and how long it will take for the infant to die without food. He had to find that out so he can throw them into the crematorium. When Dr. Pearl saw this, she let them know through the grapevine there was such a thing, that anybody who was pregnant not to go to Mengele. And she would take them to the Sherutin,
Latrine.
to the latrine, which is the filthiest place where 30,000 women were there. And she would abort them right on the floor in this field with her bare hands. She had no gloves, she had no water, she had no soap, nothing. So the mothers could live and remain alive and have children afterward. When I told the story to a friend of mine, she said, yes, my sister-in-law went through this experience, and my sister-in-law has 14 children, and all her children have a lot of children to replace all of those that Mengele killed. They were saved by Dr. Pearl so that they can have children afterward. She continued with this, and she helped many, many women remain alive so they can have children afterward. She remained alive. She came to Israel after the war, and she refused to be adopted. At one time when she was speaking about her experiences, Eleanor Roosevelt was here. She was the wife of Eleanor Roosevelt, the President of the United States, and she said to her, you have such a gift being a doctor, you have to be a doctor and come to us, come to America. She says, I'm from Romania and the quota is very, very small, and it will take 10 years for me to get to America. She arranged it, and the Congress made a special law to allow her to go to America. In America, she had problems because to give her certification, they accused her of helping Mengele. And she had difficulty, but she was able to help there many, many women who were scared of doctors. They were scared to death. So she was able to help them in America, in rich land already. When she retired, she came back to Israel, where she has a sister. She's still here. And she volunteered to the hospital of Shaare Tzedek, where she came in to deliver babies. And each time she would go into the delivery room, she would pray and say, Dear God, make sure this is a live one. You owe it to me. I had to destroy so many infants to save the life of the mothers. So we all tried to help each other in whatever way we could. She had no medication, she had nothing to help us with, but with her voice, with her hope, with her telling us, she was able to give us enough strength to go through what we did have to go through. Now, when they took us to the next, we did undress, we listened to her, we did undress, and we went into the next room where we were told to sit facing the wall on little stools, and from the back they came and shaved our heads, all the hair from the body. Then we are marched into the next room, and there are shower heads, and actually I was thinking, will there come gas from there or water? Obviously we did hear rumors, and we did know that there is such a thing as gas, but we didn't know the name of Auschwitz, and we didn't know that we are at it. And then a little bit of cold water did come out. Of course, no soap, no towels, nothing. And we are remaining completely naked and without anything like the minute we were born. The first minute. The second one, they already cover you with a blanket. And then we are marched into the next room, where we are given a dress, gray short sleeve cotton dress, and I look at it and I think to myself, so nice of them to give us a nightgown. Little did I know that that was going to be my dress for the whole time that I was in Auschwitz. They would take us like once in 2 weeks back to the sauna, where they would we would have to give in our clothes, our dress that they would put into big machines that they have there to disinfect them, and we got a shower, and we had to sit naked and wait for the dress to come back. We never got the same one, the same size. When I hear somebody say, I don't have anything, you sometimes hear people say that. That's the picture that comes to my mind, that we really had nothing. And if I feel that that person will benefit by it, I say I would like to share with you what this sentence means to me. I see the picture where we remained naked, without any jewelry, without any hair, without any belongings, without any family pictures, and above all, without family, alone. And if this person is smart enough, they say, thank you, I learned the lesson. Because we don't go through one day without something not reminding us of there. There isn't a day in our life that we can go through something doesn't remind us. Now when I talk to people, I talk to you, it's not something I learned in college or I read a book. I am there. When I tell you, I am there, right there. So there are so many things in life, like people would ask me, why don't you remove the number? And I say, why? They say, well, why do you have to look at the number and remember? I don't have to look at the number to remember, but the number reminded you. So maybe that's why I was left alive. We still don't know why we were left alive and not the others. We still didn't figure it out. I only know one thing. I asked God to let me live so I can tell what happened to us. I made a contract with him. And he kept his word, so I have to keep mine. And I do a lot of talking. And like I say, it's not easy. Many of us are not able to do it. My cousin who lives in Haifa, whom we went through everything together with, not only doesn't she talk, not only doesn't she tell her children, but if she would hear me talk, she just walks out of the room. It affected all of us differently, and like everybody is different. Okay, now they are marching us into the next room, already to the outside, and we look at each other and can't recognize each other. We are all looking the same, like plucked chicken or shorn sheep, all the same, with the same gray dress, and no identification of earrings or anything. Even sisters didn't recognize each other till they started to talk, so they recognized the voices. And in this way we are marched into, they call them blocks, these barracks, and in the barracks there are, like, I call them shelves, triple deckers, and to each one they place 6 girls. There is wooden planks and little straw and 1 blanket for the 6. Now, there wasn't enough room, so we decided that 3 will go with the heads to one side and 3 with the heads to the other side, like the sardines that are packed into the box. If one of us had to turn over during the night, all 6 had to turn over, because there wasn't enough extra room for having too much room. And then they're bringing us food, so-called food. It's a bowl, and in it they call it soup. There are some vegetables floating. And they give us this bowl to all 6 without the spoon and say, here, food, like dogs. I explained to you, we traveled 3 days and 3 nights. We were hungry. We didn't have a drop of water. We had just pieces of dried bread and these 3 days. And we don't know what to do with it, but we try to take a sip and turn it a little and give it to the next one, that this is how we'll have this food, and it reaches our throat and we cannot swallow it. It is so horrible that we cannot swallow it. And then we notice girls who are there taking care of the cleanliness and order of the barrack, and they start laughing and say, you spoiled Hungarians. You don't know that another few days you're going to pray to get another sip. You still lived at home. You still had food at home, and they are like, and we were rotting here, as if to make us guilty for them rotting there. We had nothing to do with it. And since we realized that these are like our sisters, only they're there a long time already. They were from Poland or Czechoslovakia or Ukraine, whatever, wherever the Germans occupied. I told you that already. They killed most of the Jews, but took the strong ones, the workers, to work. Some of those girls even had to help build the barracks that we were in. And since we realized that they are our own girls, we asked them, when are we going to see our family? And this time they really start laughing. And they say to us, stupid Hungarians, don't you know where you are? Don't you know you are in Auschwitz? Don't you know what Auschwitz is? Look, don't you see the chimneys? Don't you see the fire out of the chimneys? This is where they are burning your people now. And we fall back in fear and we say, they're crazy. How can they say such a thing? It's not so many hours that we were together with our families. And here they are telling us that they are crazy. They are here such a long time that it went to their minds, and they think that that's what it is. You can't believe things like that. It just doesn't like you. And then we started to see trains arriving also in the daytimes. In those days, trains arrived in the daytimes, and in the nighttime they worked 24 hours a day, because we were the last Jews of Europe, so they had to finish with the Jews. transports kept on coming, and there were as many as 10,000 or 12,000 each day that were gassed and burned. And if they didn't have enough room in the crematorium to burn them, they would put the children and old people into pits and pour gasoline on them and burn them alive. We started to see transports arriving. They also go into a place like a tunnel, and these are normal-looking people with clothes, with children, older people, younger people. And a few hours later, out comes a group that looks like us, a small group that looks like us, like monkeys, like plucked chickens. And then we started to believe that these girls were not crazy, that these girls were telling us the truth. Now, also there was a horrible stench, which we did not know what it was, but we learned that that was the smell of burning human flesh. These are all things we have to learn and start believing. Now, in the morning, we had to get out, it was early in the morning, form lines of 5 in a row to be counted in front of every barrack. The amount had to be counted and perfect. We also had to take the ones that died during the night, also put them into the row of 5, because the counting had to be perfect. And sometimes we would have to stay to be counted in rain or heat or cold, and then afterwards snow in the winter. It didn't matter how long, it had to be recounted if they made a mistake even by one too many or one too few. It had to be perfect. And there were 30,000 women in Birkenau, and they had to be recounted. The same thing was in the morning, and the same thing was in the evening when we came back from work. We had to march out to work, accompanied by an orchestra that played marches. They formed orchestras of the most famous musicians in Europe. And also when they went to the crematoriums, they were also playing music. Food. In the morning, we were given a cup, a little bigger, a cup of, they called it coffee. It was burned barley that was boiled after, and it looked the color of coffee. That was our breakfast. Finished. At lunchtime, they did bring us the soup that we complained about to the workplace in the fields, and we were given that. At this time, we were rich already. We each had a cup like with a little handle that we wore tied to the waistline, and we did have a spoon. That was all that we had. All. Not a comb, we didn't need one. Nothing else. Can you close your eyes and imagine that suddenly you have nothing? That was us. And in the evening when we came back from work, we were given a portion of bread. It was black bread that had in it sawdust that was tasting not good, but that too we prayed to get a little bit more. And the size was a small, from a small loaf, about 2 slices of bread. That was our dinner. Sometimes once a week or once in 2 weeks, whenever they had, they would also include a piece of margarine. But Dr. Pearl told us that with the margarine, we can heal our wounds. We were picked to work of digging ditches in the fields. And that was very difficult. And our hands got blisters. And from the heat, from the sun, our legs got blisters. And Dr. Pearl told us that with this margarine, we can put it on our wounds and heal them. That became the medicine of the camp. Now, we continued with our work, and then came the Jewish holidays, when they killed many more Jews during the holidays for many reasons. They had to make room for all of them that they brought from Europe. For another reason is simply they said, how come your God isn't helping you? Then we got to the holiday of Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is the holiest day in the Jewish calendar of the year, where we are fasting and praying 24 hours during the day. And since we came from religious homes, my cousin who was with me and I decided we're going to be fasting, because it's not such a big deal. We're just not going to drink the liquid in the morning. In lunchtime, we are going to take that soup back to the camp, and in the evening we're going to get the portion of bread. So it's not such a big problem. And we decided to fast. We were working that day of Yom Kippur next to the crematoriums in the ashes. So we had to load the ashes onto trolley cars that were taken to other places. And in those ashes, there was also one little bone. The German couple who was watching over us told us that that's the only bone in the human body that does not get burned. Well, we know in scriptures it's written that from that bone, when it's going to be resurrection of the dead, that from that bone the holy people will be rebuilt. I mean, it was a very tough emotional place to work on Yom Kippur Day. And comes lunchtime, and we are getting our portion of the soup, and we go, my cousin and I sit down, and the other girls too. And the SS, of course they knew when our holidays were, came over and said, we see that you have problems with your appetite. We'll help you out. Up, everybody get up. Run, sit down, lie down, get up, and do with us all kind of exercises. And the dogs are after us. And if somebody falls down, the dogs pick them up with their teeth. And this is going on, I have no idea how long. And then they say, we see that your appetite has returned. Now go sit down and eat. We go to sit down, and my cousin and I are sitting in a corner and we are not eating. the other girls are eating, and they say to my cousin, how come you're not eating? She says, she's younger than I am, and she doesn't want to eat, so I can't eat either. So they asked me, why aren't you eating? I said, simply because today is Yom Kippur, and on Yom Kippur we fast. And they said, but you see, God didn't want us to fast. If He would have wanted us to fast, He would have given us better conditions. And I say, well, maybe He wants to see that in spite of the bad conditions, we are fasting. So we fasted, and we came back to the camp. It was a very, very hot day. Our soup got spoiled, and we couldn't eat it. But we did have the portion of bread, and we ate that. Next morning, we are marched out to work, 200 girls. We are marched out to work, and kind of digging ditches, and as we arrive there, there is a mountain of tools, pickaxes and different kind of tools, and some are very heavy and some are very light. So everybody wants to get the light one. Of course, the SS is there and is hitting and is breaking heads and is breaking arms and is breaking and cursing. You dirty Jews, you don't want to work, you want to have easy life, if he called that life. And I say to my cousin, I'm not going to wait till the end. I'll take what is left because I don't want any beatings. She said, okay, I'll stay with you. I'm also not going. And we are looking for the people to get their tools. And the German couple was usually a German woman who was sitting in jail for whatever crime she committed, whether it was stealing or murdering or whatever, and she was given this job to watch these Jewish murderers instead of sitting in jail. She walks over to us and she says, you little one, and you little one, you remain Vorarbeiterin. You remain in charge today of the people to make sure they work well. And I go to my cousin like this and I say, you see, yesterday's fasting, it already is paying off. We already don't have to work with these heavy tools and to dig up the earth. And we already got payment. We're standing there waiting, and she comes back a few seconds later, and she says to my cousin, who looks older than me, she is older than I am, and she says, do you know how to cook? She said, yes. She said, I have a cabbage, and I would like you to make for me a soup out of it. Can you do that? She says, yes. There is a little bit of a, what should I call it, a little cabin. And there she takes my cousin in, and the SS men with their dogs who are watching over us are also going in to see this miracle being performed that shall make a soup out of this cabbage. And I am remaining alone with 200 girls. And I don't know what to do. And I'm thinking, what can I do to help these people today? Because I knew how very difficult it was to pick these things and to work a whole day and to dig. And I start yelling in Hungarian, don't work now, just bend down, just watch me. I will tell you when to work. Rest now. And I'm yelling it. And this is going on. When I see somebody coming, I'm telling them, now you have to work. Somebody. And I'm continuing it till lunchtime, when the couple comes back, and she's the one to ladle us out our soup. And she says to me, you little one, come over here. And I stop, and I'm standing like a piece of wood, and I cannot move. So probably somebody told her, or she understood what I said, or she knows what I did, and she's going to kill me. And I can't move. She said, what are you standing there like a dumb cow? I heard how diligent you were. I heard how you told the people to work. Come over here, you get double lunch today. This time I can walk already, I can fly. And I get there, and I come back with double food. And I tell my cousin, you see, first of all, I shared the soup, of course. And then I say, you see, we already got paid for yesterday's fasting. We had to see miracles and tiny little things. This was an answer to me, that we did the right thing. We thought about the others. And I'm looking around nowadays to my grandchildren, to 16-year-olds, and I don't know. I don't know where we took the strength of trying to help each other, to trying to get through this unbelievable horror that we were in. Now, the work continues even in the fall, when there is already rain and then snow, working very hard to hand, and even some to railroad tracks with bare hands to undig them from the ice and move them to a different place. How we did it, I just can't understand it today. I can't understand it. This is continuing till January. In January, the Russian front is coming closer to Auschwitz, and they decide they don't want all these people here. They destroy a lot of things. They destroy the crematoriums, they destroy, and the ones who can walk, except the ones who are sick and are in the hospital, they leave them there, and they are taking us on a march. Now the snow is very white, very deep. We are given a blanket. We are given a long piece of bread, and we are told march. And if our feet give up, our bodies give up and fall down, we are shot and left to die in there. Now the beautiful white snow that we even used for water became red after a while. And then we arrived at a camp called Bergen-Belsen. A small group was left from the ones we started out. We arrived to Bergen-Belsen, and Bergen-Belsen, up till the day we arrived, it was a nice camp. Like Hannah told us a week ago, who was also on Bergen-Belsen, but it was a nice camp who were used for exchanging with German prisoners. So they had to look nice and they had to look healthy. So they got better food, they had their own clothes. They weren't as miserable as the ones who arrived from Auschwitz and from other camps. From many other camps, they took us, as the English arrived, as the Russians arrived, they just took us to further into Germany. Now, in Bergen-Belsen, we continued working. In Bergen-Belsen, we do not have anymore the shelves that I'm complaining about. We are still like sardines, but on the floor. Every place, every little place on floor is occupied. And of course, there's no way of undressing or anything, and we can't undress because sometimes our shoes are stolen. Sometimes they are torn anyway. And this continues till all sicknesses that you can imagine, all sicknesses arrive and are making us sick. Every sickness you want to think of, whether it's tuberculosis and diarrhea and dysentery and typhus. Typhus was the biggest one. And another one was lice. Lice covered us from head to toe. Till we still had some strength, we were able to move them off like this, to move the lice off. They were all over us. But then many start dying. And the dead are taken out, and in front of every barrack there is a mountain of dead skeletons, because we had no more flesh left in our bodies. There was just bones and skin holding it together. And the dead are carried outside. And then it becomes that nobody can carry out the dead anymore. So we are with them, lying down with them together. Actually, around me, they were all dead. I knew they were dead. They didn't kick me anymore. And they didn't push. And I envied them. I just envied them. They are not suffering anymore. And one day, the German SS women who were watching us heard that the English are arriving to liberate the camp, and they ran away, but they also shut off the water. So there was no more distribution of food or water or anything, and people are just dying. 6 days later arrived the British Army. And when Field Marshal Montgomery, who was a man of war, who saw war, who knew what war is, he is crying like a baby of what he saw in Bergen-Belsen. It's unbelievable to describe. It's unbelievable to remember. There were few alive. And the officer comes into the lab and says, "You are liberated. You are free. You can go any place you want to. You can even go home." I said, "Home?" And I started to cry. It was the first time I cried during the whole experience. And I said, "Home? I'm not going there." I knew my whole family was killed. I knew I'm not going to find anybody home. I'm not going back to see my neighbors who were laughing at the top of their lungs to, "We're getting rid of you Jews," or to hear them say, "So many of you have returned." Maybe it was 2%, maybe. And that's exactly the words they used to those who did return. "So many of you came back, Hitler didn't finish you off." And they didn't want to return any of the belongings. I know my aunt did go back. She was hoping that from other camps some relatives will come. And when she asked back for certain property, they said, you talk too much and we'll make you a head shorter, which means cut your head off. And many of them started to go back to Germany because their homes were not homes anymore. That was tragic. And then I suddenly discovered the dead, as if I never saw them before. And I said, they died. Some of them were as many as 4 or 5 years in camps. And I said, it's not fair, they are dead. Like I woke up and I pitied them, but I remained alive. Then a group of doctors and nurses came from Sweden and said, we'll take you to our country to help you get healthy. And I was lucky enough to fall into this group, and we went to Sweden, and they were the most marvelous people. You know, the Swedes had no war, so they were different kind of people. They didn't go through any war. And they were great. They helped us get well. I remember one evening we were taken from one place to another one, and there is tables with white tablecloth, with pitchers of milk, and for each one a glass. And there are sandwiches on the table. And you can take, and you can eat it. And we didn't believe it, we're alive. We pinched each other, and to know that we're not dreaming. Because whenever we were talking among us, it was, I remember one instance where one girl says, all I wish is that I should ever again have a bed and a bed with a sheet and a good meal, and then I can die. And I said, no, it's the opposite. Right now, if I die, I'm not losing anything. But when I have a bed, and I'll have a bed with a sheet and a good meal, that's when I want to live. I always turned the coin over. I always look for the good thing in a situation. I think that was one of the things that helped me have enough courage and enough strength to continue. Or we said, we don't need more than one dress. We'll wash it at night and wear it in the morning. Who needs more? And now I go over to my closets and I look in and I say, I don't have what to wear. And then I say, oh God, I hope I said, we have a Jewish saying that, that it's not beli neder, without making a vow on this. I said, I hope I said that vow, but I'm a woman, and that's life. And thank God we're alive and we're here. Now, after a while, lists started to arrive from all over, and relatives that I had in America. First, I'll tell you about another group that came from Israel. A Bnei Akiva group came of young people who came to help us. They were very much needed in Israel at that time to fight for every inch of land. But they came to help the remains of the war. And they came and they helped us, retaught us how to, we had no education during the war. We weren't allowed to go to school.